It's a great day to talk hockey with Grant McCagg on HabsCast.
Good day, Eric. How are you today?
Grant, how you doing? Nice to see you. We coming on live after the Montreal Canadiens press conference. Kent Hughes did his yearly mid-season press conference. So we can talk about that. There's a lot there. He's Grant McCagg. I'm Eric Macramalla. This is HabsCast, your podcast for all things Montreal Canadiens. I got to say, Grant, first, as we come into 2026, we started this podcast, or you started it, with a rotating roster of hosts. It feels like it's been, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, about that, right around this. It was right before the season started. So in September, you have gained so much traction. You've been doing a wonderful job. You're always on at the most important times. So congratulations. In a very short period of time, Grant, you have really done something that's hard to do, and that is gain a foothold with Montreal Canadiens fans. How does it feel?
Oh, it feels great. I mean, I've had a following on Twitter for a few years, obviously, and being on other podcasts helped get me some recognition. But hey, I really appreciate you and the other folks that have helped with the hosting. I've gotten more comfortable, so I'm doing it now predominantly myself. But at the start, there's no way I could have done it without your help.
Well, happy to help. As you know, any Habs fan will talk Habs with anybody, anytime, anywhere. So, all right. So I want to jump into some of the comments that Kent Hughes, general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, made in his press conference earlier today. It was held at noon, streamed live on YouTube. I'll start with the goaltending. Canadiens now have Montembeault, Dobeš, and Jacob Fowler as the goaltenders. This is what he said. He said them at separate times, and I want to get your reaction as to what you think he's saying and what may happen this season and next season. He said, quote, ideally, we won't have 3 goaltenders long-term, end quote, yada, yada, yada. We're happy and confident that Montembeault has regained his form, end quote. Now, has he regained his form? Yes, he looks better. Still give up a softie against Dallas on that wraparound, but he looks much better. There's no doubt. Let's assume Montembeault has regained his form, and I'm not comfortable saying that just yet. It's only been a couple games. But if he does, what does the goaltending situation look like for the rest of this season? And will Fowler be sent down? Will, I don't know, Dobeš be traded? What does it look like this year? And Grant, what does it look like next year as well?
Well, just, judging by what Kent said in my rudimentary grasp of the French language and trying to understand exactly what he was saying, but my feeling from what he was saying was like what I found interesting, not what you said there, obviously, but also when he talked about Fowler saying this summer the plan was for him to spend the season in the American League. He has a mental edge, his approach. He doesn't seem like a young guy at all. I thought was an interesting comment. Mm-hmm. Didn't really talk about Dobeš, did he? He talked about Fowler. He talked about Montembeault. I mean, he wasn't asked directly, I guess, about Dobeš, but my feeling is they want to go with Monty and Fowler, and that Dobeš will end up probably being sent down to the American Hockey League. I think he'll be the odd man out. I mean, I've gotten that impression before this press conference anyway. And I think just based on what, trying to read the tea leaves, and it's always just all you can do is speculate. My feeling is that Dobie will be the third man out, and perhaps even part of a trade for another for another piece. But given the fragility of the goaltending situation right now, I'd be surprised if they traded him, because you can call him right back up, right? Like if Monty goes in the tank again, or if Fowler starts to struggle, you can switch Fowler and Dobeš, because Dobie can go down, Fowler can go down, but I think the important thing is that Dobeš isn't waiver eligible yet, and that, I believe, is what will ultimately result in him being sent down here, I think.
Grant, I agree with all of that. I agree that Dobeš looks to me like the odd man out because they've really stood by Sam Montembeault and Jacob Fowler, someone they will stand by for the next 10 to 15 years. He's clearly the goal of the future. Montembeault will be 30 in the final year of his deal, which is next year. Dobeš is 24, turns 25 in May. I guess what I'm wondering is, what's the right decision to make? Dobeš had a stretch of a few poor games, but on the whole has played well this year. Montembeault has had a few good games, and on the whole has played poorly. I get he looks different in his net over the past 2 games. I get that he's improved. But I think to declare at this point that Montembeault has regained his form strikes me as premature and maybe a bit aspirational. And if you have no goaltending, you can't win, full stop. There's no way around that. You cannot win if your goaltending isn't strong. And Fowler has been good. Even the game they lost, I thought he was probably the best player on the ice for the Canadiens, I think, against the Blues. I'm wondering what the right decision here is. That's the big question to me. Do you keep Dobeš? It's the issue there is you can't have 2 really young guys as your goaltending tandem. I think the Canadiens see that. The message, though, has been kind of clear from management, Grant. And I want to get your views on this is they seem to think they can't win without Sam Montembeault in top shape, playing at his best. Is that something that you've been left with as well?
Yeah, I get that impression that not just management, but the coaching staff, maybe perhaps even more importantly, it seems like it's sink or swim with Monty. It feels like, and they really, I mean, last year Montembeault had he was 3rd in the league in saves above expected, which is the big stat now, and I guess they figure that Dobeš can't ever do that, right? And that, ultimately, when they're playing at their best, that they think that Monty is a better goalie right now than Dobeš. You still see technical issues with Dobie. He'll have. I love his battle. I love how he competes. I think he's more of a battler than Monty even, and you get a lead and it's hard to beat Dobie. Like he's and his record's 13-5-4 or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's tough to send down that. The guy with the best win percentage gets the short end of the stick. I don't necessarily agree with it, but at the same time, as I noted at the start, he can always be brought back up. I think that's why, and because he's waiver eligible, he's best when he's playing a fair bit. Anytime he's ever, like just at the start of the year, he started October 6-0, and then they were like hell bent on getting Monty going, and he only played 2 games in the next 19 days. And then he went into a tailspin. Mm-hmm. Well, he got going again at the end of December, was 4-2-1. And they call up Fowler. They bring Monty back, and he's not playing. And looks like, I think he needs to be playing. And he needs to keep developing. He still needs work on technical issues in his game. And I'm more comfortable with the goalie coach in Laval right now than I am with the one in Montreal. And in that regard too, I think it may be best for Dobeš's long-term future to be because I still think he has more things to work on than Fowler, even though Fowler's just the kid, the 21-year-old. So
Fowler's almost fully formed as far as an NHL goaltender goes. Dobeš still has a lot to learn from a mental standpoint and from a physical standpoint. But if you're asking me, who do I want to net this week, let's say against the Flames, before they play the Panthers in a back-to-back game? Because Fowler probably will play one of those 2 games. So I don't know. Let's say it's Montembeault or Dobeš against the Panthers. I'd rather have Dobeš in nets. I'm sorry. I feel like he's been a better goaltender this season. I understand what the predicament for the Canadiens is. But I think Dobeš is just a better goalie. And you and I talked about it. It's that S word, softies. Yeah, he played well against the Stars, made some terrific saves. Then we would agree. But the wraparound was a softie. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
No, and it could have been the difference in the game. Good thing that Montreal has one of the most talented offensive teams in the league, or that cost them the game, right?
Yeah.
And no, I agree. I personally, if it was up to me, Eric, yes, I would be going with. Every game's important with the parity in the league. You can be in 14th place in a week, so I think the welfare of the team is more important than the welfare of one player. But it doesn't seem like that's the mindset of the Montreal Canadiens organization right now. I have very few things that I question that they're doing, but that's one that I think I don't agree with.
He is Grant McCagg, NHL scout. I'm Eric Macramalla. This is HabsCast, all things Montreal Canadiens. There are a few other things that Kent Hughes talked about in his midseason press conference earlier today. One of them was made me think about you. And he was asked about Oliver Kapanen becoming a long-term solution as a second-line center. And 2C, that was discussion all off season, the start of the season. Canadiens don't have a 2C, don't have a 2C. Well, it turns out they have a 2C, and that 2C may well be centering the Habs top line with Demidov and Slavkovsky. Ken Hughes, when asked if Kapanen is a long-term solution at 2C, he says he has no doubt that he can be that. So he's saying he's not that now, but he can be that. Do you feel, Grant, because you were on this in the preseason, like nobody's business, do you feel vindicated?
Well, so far, so good. At the very least, if, after this year, he's not the 2C, we can still say, I think, comfortably that at least for one of his NHL seasons, Oliver Kapanen was a legitimate second-line center.
Because he's not going to get any worse. He's only going to get better, right, Grant?
Right. No, I agree. And, there's still people like, that question, I have a feeling that Oliver Kapanen could be a 35-goal scorer that kills penalties, that is a fantastic two-way player. And there'll still be members of the Montreal media at that point asking if he can be a legitimate second-line center. It just seems like it's a question that's not going to go away. And, I've followed the game. Well, you just look at my face. I've followed the game for a lot of years. And I have seen so many teams, including the great Montreal Canadiens team of the 70s, that Scotty Bowman didn't go with Pierre LaRouche, the offensive 100-point scorer at 19 in the NHL, as a second-line center to win cups. He went with two-way centermen in that slot. You got to be good defensively. You just have to be a top two center in the NHL and to be successful. And all the cup winners had first and foremost, the one commonality with second-line centers on cup winners through the years, I'd say 90% of the time, is that they're all really good away from the puck. And that describes Oliver Kapanen to a T. Will he be an 80-point scorer? Probably not. But you go over successful teams in the NHL in history and how many of them had 80-point second-line centers. They had 80-point, 100-point wingers on their second line, but the center, first and foremost, is very good, responsible defensively, and backs up his talented wingers on the second line. I love the composition of that line right now. Kent was asked, well, maybe Dach's on the first line, maybe Newhook, maybe Slav, but it's fun. Obviously, he's admitting that Texier is not the answer on the first line, and I think we can all agree on that. But I found that all interesting, that he brought up Slav third, in that conversation. I think that he ultimately wants. He also said that maybe they trade for a top six player, but I think what I gather from Kent is that he'd like to see that line stay together. And hey, they've showed so much promise. They're only just getting to know each other on the ice, and there's many nights when they're the first line. So, you know, my argument for that was, you know, can Kapanen be long-term second line center? Well, right now he's first line center. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Kapanen is a first line center, but he's a center on the first line because I have that on
That's
my
right.
notes.
No, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I was telling my kids, both big Habs fans, 12 and 9 years old. I'm like, the Canadiens' top line is not Caulfield, Suzuki, and Tessier or Bolduc, whoever's on that line. It's Demidov, Kapanen, and Slavkovsky. When they're on the ice, a lot of meaningful stuff happens, and they all have very complementary skill sets. And the thing I love the most about that line, and it's such a lesson for those who only focus on the physical size and, you know, speed, those kinds of things, that the psychology of a player is extremely important. When you put Slavkovsky on that line as the elder statesman, we've all been in that position. You have more confidence because you don't feel like you need to defer. You don't feel like you're that. So you're sort of the person who's got to stand in the background. And what we're learning is Slavkovsky is an alpha. He's an alpha. And what that means is he has to drive a line to be effective. You're looking at a player who's very different when he's running his own business. That is that line. And it's such a lesson for people that you can't neglect or discount the psychological when assessing a player's scalability and players' projections and who they can be. You have to put them in the right situation. For me, Grant, that line, Kapanen, Slavkovsky, Demidov, that's the Habs top line.
Yeah. And you know, you said that well. He's centering the top line. That doesn't mean he's a first line center.
I did say well. I was very happy with that wording.
Yeah, no, well said.
Thank you.
You know, a rare moment for you, Eric. But but I mean, I think it does prove that he can be a second line center. If he can comfortably center a line that on a team that's at the top of the standings, the center a first line that's playing like a first line, then yeah, he can be the long-term solution as the second line center. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Do I think he can be as good as Anthony Cirelli, who was a second line center for 2 years on Tampa's Cup winners, beside a really skilled player like Stamkos? Absolutely. I see that's exactly what I see in him. That Sam Bennett was the second. He won the Conn Smythe. Never scored more than 50 points in the regular season in the NHL. But, you know, that's the type of player Kapanen is. He's not as gritty as Bennett, but that, again, just so good away from the puck. It's so important in a top two center role. Nick Suzuki is. The other night, Eric, they had their four penalty killers were Veleno, Kapanen, Danault, and Suzuki. Basically all their centers, right? You know, like
that's a good point.
Marty, that it's so important that your centerman. And then last year, Dvorak was a key penalty killer. So important that you have good defensive centers. And you know, even going back again, I always harken back to the dynasty because that's the blueprint. That's the blueprint that the New York Islanders followed after, right? Bill Torrey, who was with the Canadiens organization all those years and learned from, mentored by Sam Pollock, is you got to have four good defensive centers down the middle. And, you know, it's a key building block on any successful NHL team.
You know, I'd say Kapanen in 3 years will be the type of player you can't win a cup without. And he has that, he can finish. He's like Lehkonen, but with finish. And that goal he scored against Dallas with a Kreisheis pass, I think it was from Slavkovsky or Demidov. I don't remember. I think maybe it was Demidov. And he went far top corner. And that was just a hell of a goal. And
well, they're both
that's a goal. Huh?
Well, you said with finish. They're both Finnish. But
yeah, that's right. They are.
I
They are.
digress.
And I know you're having fun with words. I just there's Dan Asham. Come on, people, hit the likes. Yes, you should hit the likes on YouTube. This is free, so the least you could do is hit the likes and get Grant more thumbs up. All right, there's so much more to talk about here. I want to talk about Caden Gooley. He's coming back. He's on the ice today. The Habs are playing back-to-backs, playing the Flames and then the Panthers Wednesday, Thursday. The thought is he probably comes back on Thursday. Don't play him back-to-back, coming off injury. That actually makes some sense to me, but I guess we'll see. Maybe they play him against the Flames and see how he feels afterwards. But here's my question for you, okay? Laine Hutson has been playing on the left side for some time now and has been producing better on the left side, his natural side, than on the right side. Gooley comes back. He's a top 4D. We all know that until he gets hurt again. So the 3 games that Gooley will play before he gets hurt, do you slot Gooley in on the left side and Laine Hutson back on the right side? Or do you say, you know what, Laine, you have been producing a point a game, and the analytics have also demonstrated that you have been extremely efficient on the left side. Do you keep him there, Grant, or do you put him back on the right side and Gooley on the left?
That's a great question, isn't it? I think ideally your top minute munchers are Gooley, Hutson, Matheson, Dobson, and ideally Carrier's not playing 22 minutes a night. I mean, he's been doing it, but with that in mind, I believe that you have to Hudson's still good on the right, and I think he'll be even better with Gooley beside him. You know, yeah, he was playing on the right, but with Struble and a different partners and no legitimate top 4 defensemen on his left side as a rule. Gooley is a legitimate second pairing defenseman on the left, and because of that, I think Hudson's numbers will improve on the right side, playing beside Gooley on the left.
I'd love to see Laine Hutson stay on the left, just because he's been so good there. Gooley is more of a functional type of defenseman. While it's not ideal to have him on the right side, maybe he can still do what he needs to do and what he does best, playing on either side. But Laine Hutson seems to be just better on the left side, Grant. Is there any validity to that type of argument, or am I just making stuff up?
Well, I thought he was more than fine on the right side too, Eric. I mean, he's been even better since he went back to the left, and that's understandable given that that's his natural side. But if you go with Matheson, Hutson, and then Gooley's on the third pairing, so you're only giving them, even though it's funny, you always you keep bringing up the physicality part of the Canadiens, and would you not want Gooley playing in the top 4 to bring that physical element?
I'm saying top 4, but play him on the left side, and he can still do what he needs to do.
No, but what is Matheson then, the third?
Sorry, I mean on the right side with Laine Hutson on the left side. No, Gooley's a top 4D. There's no doubt.
Oh, you're saying Gooley on the right side?
Yeah.
Well, he has played there before. Because if you don't play him on the right, Eric, in that scenario, it doesn't make sense to me, because I don't want Gooley in the bottom pairing. I want him top 4. I think
100%.
That's missing right now. That's been their first line winger and the fourth guy in the top 4 have been the 2 key missing ingredients for the Canadiens. They've been winning despite that. Well, that and the goaltending, but maybe you try. I mean, I haven't minded Gooley on the right. He's pretty solid on the right side too, and you might be onto something there. All I know is that I don't want Hutson and Carrier to be second pairing.
That's just not going to work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that would be how it would have to happen, because otherwise you've got Gooley on the third pairing with Jackeye or Struble on the wrong side, and I would give that a go. I would try because as you say, the numbers have been even better, and arguably top 3 defenseman in the league since he's been moved back to his natural side. So why tinker with that? Just like why tinker with Slav on the second line?
He is Grant McCagg, NHL scout. I'm Eric Macramalla. This is HabsCast. All things the Montreal Canadiens. There's so much to talk about as Habs fans. There's a million things to talk about. There was a question that was asked here by Ronan. It does raise another point we should discuss. He asked, wondering if anything was said about Kirby Dach, that is in Kent Hughes' press conference earlier today at noon, his midseason annual press conference. Yes, Kent Hughes said Kirby Dach's being brought along slowly, exercise extreme caution because he hurt the leg that he's had repaired previously, so make sure that he's fine. When he comes back, let me go back. In the off season, the first couple months of the season, it was 2C, 2C, 2C. Canadiens have to acquire a second line center. Kapanen emerges. Now the second line is the top line. You don't need that. You may want it, but you don't need it at this point. But what seems to be a glaring need is a top 6 forward and a forward to play with Suzuki and Caulfield. And it has to be a certain type of forward. It's got to be a bigger body that creates time and space for the 2 smaller guys so they create and they can capitalize on their offensive opportunities. Kirby Dach physically fits that. He's played well with them in the past. Grant, do you trade for someone or do you wait for Kirby Dach to return and try him again on that line where he's played relatively well in the past?
Well,
knowing that he'll get hurt again.
Yeah, I know. With the parity that we have in the NHL right now, there aren't too many NHL teams offering top 6 forwards in trade. It's not going to happen before the trade deadline, if it even happens then. I don't think. So they're going to have to. They're going to have to try it. They're going to have to. I would give them a month-long audition or however long it is up until the trade deadline, and I mean, be patient with it too. Don't be expecting miracles overnight, but play them there and let them get used to playing with each other again for a month or whatever, and give them a really good look there. And I thought it interesting that Hughes also brought up Newhook as a possibility on the top line. I don't like that idea. I think you're in agreement with that. That ideally Newhook's on the third line when he comes back.
Yeah,
but
he can skate, but that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah. I mean, Dach brings the elements that if he's competing consistently and plays physically, which we didn't necessarily see when he came back from injury last year, but I do believe when he's playing on the wing, you just naturally have that mindset. You're in the corners a lot more. You have to battle a lot more. And I think he will play a physical style on the wing with those two. And also, I think he's going to have a lot of incentive, Eric. I mean, hey, here's your opportunity to play with what has been the 2 best forwards the last several years on the Canadiens on what's considered the top line. Here's your opportunity. Seize it. This is your time, Kirby Dach. Go for it.
It is his time, and I believe that Kirby Dach is in the last year of his contract as well. So it's his walk year. So that's going to provide him with all the incentive he needs. It's not a top 3 overall pick that has lived up to expectation. Some of that has been injury, and some of it has been a big guy playing small after he came back from his first major injury with the Montreal Canadiens. As for Alex Newhook, if a team is properly constructed, Grant, my thought is Newhook plays on your third line or fourth line, but he shouldn't be in the top 2. I just don't see it. It's not a knock on him. To me, it's just you have to have, if you want to have a properly constructed team, which takes time. We're still in the midst of the rebuild. The Canadiens are not fully formed by any means. You need to cast your players properly. And Newhook is properly cast as a third or a fourth liner, in my opinion. But thanks for that insight on Kirby Dach. I do agree with that. Other question that I have for you is, because you make a great point about there's not parity in the NHL. I called on offside. I refer to it as extreme parity. I made that term up, and I really like it. There's extreme. There was every team in the Eastern Conference had a regular time record of 500 or more. Sorry, in regulation time. Excuse me. So it's going to be tough. Canucks may be dealing. Not a lot of teams. The Blackhawks. Is there anybody out there that kind of gets your attention, Grant, as this guy, this top six forward? Because if you acquire someone who can play on another line, maybe Slavkovsky goes back up, for example, like a Sherwood or something. Is there anybody out there that you like?
Well, I don't think there's a lot available right now. I like some guys, but I really think that ideally you answer this internally. Like, I really hope Kirby Dach's like a top 3 pick from a few years ago. He's 6'4". Like, all of the potential is there for him to be really good if he ever remains healthy and he ever finds consistency. I just don't see a lot of potential solutions out there with the extreme parity, as you mentioned, that teams just aren't going to be getting rid of. Maybe at the trade deadline by then, but certainly not up until then. So you give Dach every opportunity here to prove that he can win that spot. And I mean, Stamkos was the guy that I kept bringing up a month ago, and I really felt that was, I mean, I said I scouted him. I said, this guy's not done. The Nashville's out of the playoffs. They've made it known that these guys are available. And then what happens? Stamkos gets hot, right? He's been one of the top scorers in the past month and a half. Nashville's right back in the playoff hunt, and guess what? I doubt that Steven Stamkos is even available at this point. So I'm back down to, I don't see Sherwood as being the answer. I am always, what is he? Just turning 30 and he's having his career season this year. Mm-hmm. I'm always a little leery about that, where, you got to pay high for somebody who up until 30 years of age, you didn't have to pay high for. So I would steer clear of him, I think. And also the fact, I know it may seem like a petty thing or a minuscule thing, but him shouting at Slavkovsky in that game that he's going to knock him out of the Olympics or whatever, I don't know how well that would go over with Slavkovsky, first of all, but maybe, in the dressing room in general. Maybe I'm overblowing that, but that to me wasn't a high sign of character as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not sure that I would want him in a team that's really close. I think chemistry is one of the reasons why this team is so successful right now. I don't know that I want to upset that for a guy that's having a career year at 30 years of age.
He's Grant McCagg, American Macramalla. This is HabsCast. There's one person that comes to mind for me, Grant. Before this season, his point totals were 75 points, 73, 67, and 70. His AAV is 8.125. He's in year 3 of an 8-year deal. That's what's a little bit scary. He's 27 years old. His name is Jordan Kyrou, right winger for the St. Louis Blues on their top line. The Canadiens expressed interest in him during the offseason and last season, someone that Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes have liked. The AAV is big, 8.125. If you trade for him now, Laine has to go the other way, plus a couple of other bodies. Is that someone, from your standpoint, is it something you even think about, given his AAV, how much time he has left, how much term he has left? Could he make the Montreal Canadiens, the age of 27, entering his prime now, better for a significant stretch of time and address that issue on the first line? Or is he a player that, he's 6 feet tall, he's 6'1"? Maybe he fits the physical profile as well as someone can play on that first line. Curious as to your thoughts, because that's the only guy for me that comes to mind at this point in time, given the teams where they are in the standings?
He's not Egyptian, is he?
No, you're thinking of Hage.
Yeah, no, I know. Hey, just making sure.
He looks a bit Egyptian. He's got that light. Looks a bit like my older son, right? Who's 12 weeks sober. He's 12 years old. But Kyrou, no, he could pass for Egyptian. Why don't we say Kyrou is Egyptian?
All right. Well, then I got to get him, Eric.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I don't know that. I don't think if you're going, well, you're saying like Laine in a couple bodies, but if you at this point, Laine, that's not a valuable asset to trade. Like if you were to trade Laine to somebody, you'd have to.
Man, he's the last year of his deal, so to make the money
right,
work, you have to include that contract, and then
but you're gonna have to give extra just for that alone.
So that's why I said a couple of bodies. And not just draft picks.
It would be significant bodies.
Okay, well, let's just start. Is Kyrou? Do you see him as a fit?
Yeah. Well, no. I guess that's my answer. I don't. He's not physical. I find he's a perimeter guy to a certain degree, and I really think if the Canadiens want to make an impact in the playoffs this year, if you're adding a top 9 guy and specifically a first line guy, he's going to have to be someone who's more than willing to go to the inside and to be physical and to bring that element. His size isn't bad, but I don't know that he necessarily uses it as effectively as you would like for a player, at playoff time. And I think the Canadiens are, if they do make a move for a significant contract like that with term left, etc., it's going to be, Kent Hughes brought it up too, right? That, first line player that they might be looking at adding, but then in the next breath, he said a physical player to help them at playoffs time would be, what they're looking for. And ideally, if you trade Laine and bodies and picks, it's going to be significant for a Kyrou, given his point totals. And I don't know that he's the ideal solution for what they really need in the top 9 for me. And that's somebody with some size and physicality that can help them in those rugged playoff games and maybe help them go far this year.
Listening to you to analyze that question, whether Jordan Kyrou is a good addition, you've informed me of my opinion. I agree. He's not the right fit because it's a great point. He's 6'1", but he doesn't play 6'1". He doesn't play big. He's not physical. And he always has been a perimeter guy, loves to handle the puck. So that doesn't, if anything, he's redundant. And so you need someone, not with Slav's overall skill set, but someone that has the physical makeup and is complementary to that top line to make it work. He's Grant McCagg. I'm Eric Macramalla. This is HabsCast, all things Montreal Canadiens. Let's just talk about Patrick Laine quickly because Ken Hughes was asked about it. I think people don't like talking about it. When he was acquired, he was seen as this is a fantastic ad. The Canadiens have evolved since Patrick Laine was acquired. They are one of, if not the most, they'll say one of the most dynamic, fast, and quick teams in the NHL. I love Laine. He's really good at protecting the puck, good at carrying the puck. He can make things happen, great vision, but he's slow. Does Patrick Laine, Grant, still have a role on this team?
Well, I think Kent sort of answered that when he never mentioned him among when he was talking about possibilities to go on the top line. And I mean, he was the leading power play goal scorer last year in the NHL. And you go from that to not even being viewed as a possible solution over Alex Texier on the top line when he returns. To tells me a lot. It tells me that they plan on trying to get rid of him before the trade deadline. I don't.
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah. Well, what are you going to do?
But so do you get rid of him just to get rid of the AAV of 7 million plus? Because you're not going to get anything in return, right?
Well, get rid of him because there's no roster spot for him more than anything. Like, he's not to fit in the bottom six. I don't think he's going to get a role in the top six. So do you sit him in the stand? Will Jeff Molson be happy sitting an $8 million contract in the stands? I don't know, but I'm not Jeff Molson, but I don't imagine he'd be thrilled about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It might be a difficult body to move, just given that he may be seen as limited and someone who's injury prone. But he'd be value on some teams in the power play. There's no doubt about that. It would be interesting to see if they're able to move him. I think ideally he's moved. It just seems as though, Grant, he no longer has a place on this team, that this team has evolved past Patrick Laine. And it's not intended to be mean or critical of Laine. It's just his style seems incompatible with the Montreal Canadiens style, which is Kent Hughes and Gordon's goal at the very beginning. Remember their very first press conference, want to build a fast, skilled team. Well, guess what? Fast, skilled. So here's my next question for you, a more general question. I've been looking forward to asking you this question. The Canadiens are what, like 3 years into their rebuild? They're not a fully formed team. Is it 3 years? It feels like it. But man, they are fun to watch, and they are good, and they are resilient. And Kent Hughes identified resilience in his press conference today as one of the key attributes of this team. How far away is this team from being fully formed, do you think? A legitimate contender for the cup?
I think they're contenders this year, Eric. I really do. The East they're 2 points out of first in the East.
And the Wings have 2 games in hand, I think.
Yeah. So nobody's running away with it. We've seen, it looks like Colorado is unbeatable, but it looked like Tampa a few years ago was unbeatable. It looked like Boston a few years ago was unbeatable. It looked like Florida 5 years ago or whatever it was unbeatable 4 years ago, and they all lose in the first round of the playoffs, right? So, there's no guarantee that Colorado is going to be in the Stanley Cup Finals. In fact, history tells you that they won't be. But based on Detroit back 20 years ago, remember when they beat the Habs records?
Yeah,
never made the finals. None of these teams ever make the final. They get beat. So I'm not mailing the cup to Colorado, first of all. But second of all, I really do believe with Goulet back, if he's ever healthy, if the goaltending stabilizes, I mean, there's ifs, obviously, but there's ifs with every team in the East. If Kirby Dach can fill that role on the second line, they're relatively healthy by playoff time. I don't see why the Canadiens can't win the East this year. I hope they bring up Reinbacher for a look, because I do believe if they do want to win multiple series this playoff, that ideally, if it's not this year, then next year he's replacing Carrier in that top six. And the additions of Goulet and Reinbacher, I believe, will give them enough size and physicality to be able to go several rounds in the NHL playoffs. And it's funny that Kent mentioned it. We're probably ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
Which tells me that he's saying that they're going for it this year, that the moves that they are going to be making between now, if they make any moves, but I imagine they will, between now and the deadline, will be to go for it, because when you're 2 points out of first in your conference, how can you not go for it? When you've got a young team that believes in itself, that has improved 4 or 5 straight seasons, is only getting better as they get more confident and as they gain more experience. This reminds me a lot of that young Chicago team that won the 3 cups, with that young group, right? Go for it. And I think the window is open now. And from here, over the next decade, the Canadiens are serious contenders most, if not all, years.
I mean, you make a good point about the Eastern Conference. The Wings are at the top, 54 points in 44 games. Tampa, 53 points in 41. They got the Hurricanes and the Canadiens and the Islanders. The East is wide open. There's not a dominant team in the East. In the West, the Avs have been dominant, obviously. The Dallas Stars are a hell of a hockey team. They're a hell of a hockey team. Canadiens beat them.
Yeah.
They beat them on the road. So that's kind of a big deal. So I think, you have been consistent on this since the start. You said the Canadiens are a 100-point team. They may be between, 95 and 100 or 102. I don't know what they're going to be this season. It's a tough league. It's a tough league to get points in. But the bottom line is the Canadiens are, 7th overall in the league? I think that's where they stand. Yeah, 7th overall in the league. Their goal differential this week finally got to 0. The Red Wings are still under 0. The Red Wings goal differential sits at -5, and they play 3 more games than the Lightning and 2 more than the Canadiens. So I don't see the Red Wings' success necessarily being sustainable. So it is wide open, and anything can happen. If you're the Canadiens, you probably need a bit more beef back on D if it's possible to acquire a defenseman before the trade deadline who's a bit bigger, a bit stronger, a little bit more physical, a bit more punishing, sort of stay-at-home defenseman that you can count on. Gouli is that guy. I'm just not sure to what extent he can stay healthy, right? It's an unfortunate statement to make, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
By the way, if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section, and Grant and I will answer them, or I'll ask Grant those questions. Question here from Dan. Grant, should you get some merchandise?
Not yet. No, I have to find the right. My old supplier hasn't been getting back to me, so I need to find somebody. But I'm hearing from my the people that follow me here that they like, if I did get some HabsCast gear made up, that they would be interested in buying it. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can't get 50 HabsCast caps made up, and see if we can't sell them here on the podcast.
We have about 12 minutes left in the podcast. So, yeah, we'd love to have your questions. One here from Joey Gauthier. Would it be a good idea to send Bolduc down to the minors, Grant?
Oh,
that's interesting. That's an ambitious question. I would say the answer to that is no. I think he's playing okay. He's just not a top-line guy.
Yeah. I don't think that would help his confidence too much. That'd be quite a blow to a local kid that got traded for a recent first round pick for a recent first round pick. And no, I wouldn't be sending I get the thought process on that, but maybe he regains his confidence, so to speak. But goals per 60, he's 4th or 5th on the team. Considering his playing time, he's ahead of Suzuki in goals per 60 minutes, and which might surprise some people, but he is contributing, even though it seems after that start that he had, maybe people thought, 30, 35 goal season, and it's been a little disappointing. But having a guy in your bottom 6 that's likely going to score 20 to 25 goals and bring a physical presence, even if he's not the greatest passer in the world or what have you, I think is a nice thing to have. So I think they need his size and physical, even though it's inconsistent. That's needed in the bottom 6, and also the fact that he can chip in some goals.
Speaking of having something that's nice to have, Michael Hage led all World Junior players in points. Despite that, wasn't picked as a top 3 player for Team Canada. That was, it's cute. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's so silly. But Kent Hughes did address Michael Hage in his press conference today and suggested that they might try and bring him in after the NCAA Michigan season is done. Grant, you've had a lot of experience on the scouting side and the development side. Is that something that you're in favor of, bringing Michael Hage into the Canadiens fold at this season, at that point?
3 months ago, I'd have said no, definitely not. A month and a half ago, I said probably not. Today, I would lean towards yes. I did want to see him against his peers at the World Junior, and safe to say, I think he was the best forward in the competition. Might be a little bit of a Habs bias on my part there, but honestly, the kid that got the Chihas or whatever his name is was not as good as Michael Hage was in this tournament. He was the best forward. A game in, game out, he produced every game. He created more offense than any other player in the tournament. He showed that he has top 6 NHL potential all day, as far as I'm concerned. Will it be at center? It may not be, but the Canadiens, there's the other reason why, Eric, I don't think they panic going for a solution on the top line on the wing, because I think between Dach and Hage, they're probably going to get their answer. And yes, maybe even this year with Hage. Suzuki's so good, easy to play with, and Caulfield is so. I think, yes, bringing a kid in to play against other teams' top lines, that's a big ask, but it would be on the wing, and it would be with one of the smartest centers in hockey, in Nick Suzuki, and he would be insulated by that. And I think if Dach's not working out, that Hage has the potential to step into that role even at the end of this year, and certainly contribute more than Alex Texier at this point. I think he's a better hockey player than Alex Texier right now. A lot more creative, a lot better puck skills, and skates just as well, if not better. So I've changed my tune on Hage to a certain degree. I wanted to give it some time, but still, the rest of this season, and it's still going to be important to see what he does. The college hockey is so stacked now. It's crazy. Even this Tynan Lawrence kid, who some people have ranked top 3 for the draft, he's leaving the USHL. It was announced today. He's going to Boston University. So these teams, that C-Hash kid, he's going to play in Kelowna. Like, the college is really, really competitive this year. Martone, McKenna, all of the, Verhoff, all the players that came from junior hockey to strengthen it. The Frozen Four tournament is just going to be so competitive this year, and it'll be a real litmus test for kids that are hoping to make the jump at the end of the season. It's going to be even more competitive than what we saw at the World Juniors. And for me, that'll be the real, and Kent Hughes mentioned it too, that, they're going to make the decision after his season, because they want to see how he looks. Last year, he was disappointing in the regional tournament. Michigan didn't even get out of it. This year, if he plays as well as he did at the World Juniors, especially, then I think it's a no-brainer. They bring him in. His agent, I'm sure, is going to, given the hype, given the being an all-star in the tournament, leading the tournament in scoring, the first Hab to ever do that, by the way, lead the World Junior tournament in scoring. Shane Corson tied for the lead one year, but Hage is the first to outright lead, first Canadiens prospect to outright lead the tournament in scoring. The agent's got, they've got leverage there, and I'm sure they'll say, well, sure, he'll sign, but just like with Farrell, just like with Hudson and other guys, he's got to play, right? He's got to play for the Habs. He's not going to Laval. That will be the deal, I'm sure, at the end of the year if the Canadiens do sign him.
Well, as far as my impression of the Egyptian magician Michael Hage, I hadn't really seen him play apart from highlights on Twitter. And so we got a steady diet of Michael Hage on that top line, and I was really impressed with him. His skating, his mobility, his hockey IQ.
Yeah.
He was doing small things in the offensive zone that I think some players just are not capable of doing. His puck handling, his vision. He's also a lot better than he was last year, and that speaks to work ethic. Marty Sullivan has always said the work starts after you get drafted. And someone who works as hard as he does, and as a fellow Egyptian, we're just designed to work really hard. That's just because we have such low self-esteem. He's been working really hard. And so I've seen it. I was very impressed with how he played. Can he win faceoffs? No. Does he play in the defensive zone as a centerman? Looks more like a winger to me, as far as a full, like I don't see him playing as a centerman as far as a complete 200-foot game. Just not great on faceoffs. He can improve that, of course, but it's tough. Look at Kirby Dach, still in the 30s in faceoff percentage when he's healthy, 2 days a year. But I just find defensively, like zone coverage in his own zone maybe isn't great. But I see he's 19, turns 20 in April at some point. Bring him in and see what he can do, because the way he played, virtually every shift on offense, Grant, you noticed him in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Which raises this question for you. And this is the question I wanted to ask you as we have 2 minutes here, and Grant is going to stay and answer some more of your questions. Gavin McKenna was the consensus number 1 overall pick, I don't know, 12 months ago.
Yeah.
When I watched these World Juniors, I saw him as an accessory, best supporting actor in a documentary type of thing. But I don't have your lens. I don't have your vision. I don't have your experience. Is Grant McKenna, is Gavin McKenna, Grant, is he your presumptive number 1 overall pick still?
Yeah, is Gavin McKenna the next Grant McCagg? No, is that GM, well, he's got the right initials, but no, he's not. And there were doubts even last year. It's funny, 2 years ago, people, because he's putting up the great stats, and just you had to be impressed.
The CHL, right?
Yep. Yeah, but when they're saying, "Oh well, you tank next year because of Gavin McKenna," and well, this Schaefer kid's pretty good, like. You always think the next year the guy's better, right? It always seems like that's the case. But I mean, you ask any NHL scout today, who would you rather have going forward, Schaefer or McKenna, and you know what the answer is to that. He's undersized. He plays on the perimeter to a certain degree. Not great away from the puck, not super competitive. So at this point in his, I know he's still only a kid, but if those are things that you are concerned about in a player's draft year, they never become strengths, right? Like he's never going to be a really competitive two-way all-around NHL winger. I think he's going to lean on the offensive side. I don't think he's going to score like 40, 50 goals, because I don't see him being someone that's going to pay the price to get to the inside as often as you'd like. And in the NHL, you're not going to score 40, 50 goals if you don't. Can he be I think he'll be an elite playmaker.
I was literally saying elite playmaker, question mark?
Yeah. Yes, but perimeter, one-way, 5'11", elite playmaking winger. That's not a franchise player, first of all. It's not someone who leads your team. Like you said, I see him more as a secondary piece on a cup team. Not necessarily the guy that you say, okay, he's going to lead us to a cup. You're going to need the other pieces, right? You're going to need the Barkov or whatever at center that is the true leader, but he can be a significant contributing piece. I think he's got first line upside regular season all day. A playoff time, will he be number one winger on a Stanley Cup team? You'd have to have a hell of a center going with him and a complementary big piece on the wing, I believe, right? So I kind of compare him to Mitch Marner, if you want to sort of, but Mitch Marner became a really good defensive player.
A 200-foot player. I see a comparable might be a guy like Panarin, maybe.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. Yeah, I only mentioned Mitch Marner in the sense of his offensive game.
Yeah,
and Marner being a bit, I don't know that he's a go to the net, type player either, but he is really good defensively, and that's where Marner has the edge on him. But Marner was 4th overall in his draft class, albeit, I mean, it was McDavid and Eichel draft, but typically, I think in a good draft class, a really good draft year, you look at McKenna being like about a 4th or 5th overall pick. But in this draft class, where I don't think there's any franchise players, he's a possibility for 1st overall. But that Stenberg kid, he's done nothing but impress the last 2 years. He looked better at the World Juniors, even though McKenna got more points. This kid's more willing to go pay the price, and that kind of translates a little better to the NHL at playoff time, I think. Ultimately, for me, Eric, when you're drafting that high, I think you want someone who you think is going to be a difference maker at playoff time. That's the most important thing. That's why the Canadiens drafted Slafkovsky, I believe. A main consideration. And right now, if you ask me who's going to be better at playoff time, I think down the road between McKenna and Stenberg, I might give the edge to Stenberg at this point. And ultimately, that may be why I have him slightly ahead of McKenna come draft day. But there's still lots of racetrack left. The rest of the season, it will be very important. I always put a lot of stock into the end of the year. Do I see improvement? He's still got to adapt to the college game. How will he look in the regional tournament? And does Penn State do well? Does he play well? Does he improve his game, his game away from the puck and all that? But right now, it's a toss-up between those two for number one for me.
Well, Grant, we could talk Habs all day. We're going for a little over an hour here. Probably best to shut it down, but you're going to stick around. If the viewers/listeners have any questions and want to engage Grant in any further discussions, please stick around. Grant will stick around and he will answer your questions and engage whatever dialogue you want. I'll review in the comments. There's been an unhealthy number of Burrows references, so maybe apart from Burrows, he's happy to address anything that you may have. Grant, thanks so much for your time today. He's Grant McCagg. I'm Eric Macramalla, and this has been HabsCast, all things Montreal Canadiens. Chat soon.
Thanks, Eric. Eric Macramalla, folks. He's a gem. I certainly appreciate having him on. It's been 3 weeks since we talked, so we could have probably gone for 3 or 4 hours there. But always a pleasure to have Eric, and hopefully we can get him back on here on a regular basis, weekly, because I do really love the chats with him. Now, Drum Dude, it's a great day to talk hockey. Hey, is that not true? Absolutely. What were your thoughts on the press conference? I think Eric touched on all of my talking points there, all the things that kind of stood out for me from what Kent Hughes said. We did touch on. So let me know what you think were the things that stood out for you. And certainly, if you want to ask me any questions, then that's fine. Brian was asking, Brian Smith, does Doby need to go on waivers? No, he does not. Run 3 goalies until Olympic break, reevaluate, and decide during the break prior to deadline. Can send Beck and Engstrom down to Laval before you have to send Fowler down. Thank you, Vidak. Dovish, bad technique doesn't come from bad habit, but stress. Oh, I don't know. He's a little busy in net. Translates a save because he's battling, but also bad plays. Yeah, no, that's true. Difficult to correct. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. With the string of injuries, they'd be best served to keep Texier, Veleno, and Blais, even if they end up as extra scratch forwards. Yeah, but they're going to be over 23, and you can only have 23. So at some point, they've got to make a decision. If they ever get fully healthy, they've got too many bodies. Blais will likely go back to Laval soon since he's an emergency recall. Yep. If we wait, we risk losing him on waivers later on. Yeah. Did you say anything about Dach? Is there a new timeline for return? Well, what he said was they're going to be cautious with him because it's an injury to the same leg that he had his most recent knee injury with. So even though it's now been 7 weeks and they said originally 4 to 6, they're just taking some extra caution. They don't want him to be out again. They want him to be back and ready to roll. They also, I think, they learned from last year that they want him to be in as good a health as possible, in good shape. And so exercise and caution, and I don't think that's a bad thing, even though I'm anxious to see him replacing Texier on that top line. Wouldn't the first line be the line that the opposition covers best? Robin Peter to pay Paul is not how you contend. Second line is playing well, but Slav is the biggest reason for that. It disrupted one of the best 5-5 lines of 13, 14, 20. What's going on with the Jets this year? I don't know, Dan. Head over to a Jets thing and ask them. I don't think I haven't seen enough of the Jets to truly comment on that. But quickly, they made a bunch of poor off-season moves. They didn't re-sign Ehlers. Their second line, they have no second line. Unlike the Habs, who have a great second line now. Don't forget everyone to press the like button. Thank you, Rick. Tried calling you earlier. I don't know if you noticed. Just get an update and see how things are going with your computer. They signed Taves. They signed Nyquist. It didn't work out. They didn't re-sign Appleton. I think that was a big loss. But Ehlers is the key. And they've gotten too old, too slow. They didn't make the replacement. They didn't replace guys that they lost. Hellbuck got injured for a while. That didn't help. And it just kind of snowballed on them. Thank you, Dan. Hughes was quite assertive that he thinks Kapanen is a second-line center. Grant can be at peace. Cappy is at that position for a long run. Yeah, somebody said, oh, well, what do you expect him to say? Well, he didn't have to say that he thinks he's the solution long term. You can dance around that. No, what he said was very positive towards, yeah, that's our second line center, you know. And of course, the media has to ask that because it's always, they don't get tired of it after a while. Yeah. Slough on line 2 until a replacement is found. No. Okay, Vidak. They need a Burrows. Did anybody in the chat watch the press conference wondering if anything was said about Dach? Yeah. Well, okay. Sorry, I did mention that. Really sucks that Gooley is a lefty because Laine is way better on the strong side. Well, I think it it was brought up by Eric, and I agree that maybe, and he's played there before. You put Gooley back on the right side with him. I mean, hey, it helps offset the difficulty of Gooley playing on the right by pairing him with one of the best defensemen in the league, right? So I think it can work. I don't have an issue with that for now. You said they don't want to rush Gooley. Now, if this was the playoffs, Gooley may already be playing. Dach is a foot injury, was the same leg, so they don't want to rush him. Yeah, exactly what he said. Both Suzuki and Caulfield are great shooters and passers, but don't have the speed to make zone entries, control the puck, or forecheck as easily as others. Let's hope Dach can be this for them. Yeah, that's a good point. Speaking of good point, how about we talk a little bit about this guy, Mr. Yvan Cournoyer. You see him there? That's at the Logs End plant where they manufacture wide plank flooring. And just a little bit something here. They're my main sponsors here for the next 2 months. But what they do is they recover 200-year-old lumber, hand retrieved by divers from bottom of the Ottawa River. And while they're famous for the riverwood, the proudly Canadian company also offers white Canadian oak, hard maple, hickory, birch, and walnut for everything from high traffic commercial floors to basements with radiant heat. Logs End has provided custom flooring for NHL greats like Yvan here, Mike Vernon, Chris Neal, Chris Phillips, Gary Galley. The list goes on and on. Even Mike Blunden, who used to play for the Habs, got flooring done from Logs End. So go to their website. Do me a favor. Check it out. I think you'll be really impressed. www.logsend.com. And if you want to, get a quote or whatever, just tell them that you saw it on HabsCast and that Grant sent you this way, and they'll look after you. Let's get back to comments here. Grant, you should get merchandise. Yes. Well, if we can find a deal somewhere, we'll do so. Agree on line A. My biggest issue is how small. Yep. Gets pushed off the puck. Joey Gauthier, would it be a good idea to send Bolduc down? Yeah. Oh, we already addressed that. Where does he fit in when Newhook, Dach, and Newhook return? Yeah, the Newhook brothers, when they come back, they're Joey. I would. He doesn't fit, and we already answered that question with Eric. I think he gets moved somehow, some way. Bolduc dumps the puck too often. Yeah, that he does. Kopitar, if LA don't make the playoffs. He's going to retire King, I think. It's his last year. It's just, I'd be shocked if they trade him. Gouli last year was out with his appendix and a freak injury, cutting his leg. Not normal repeating injuries. Yeah. And, the Kings are not going to be out at the trade deadline. It's just so close. I doubt it. I really do. Oh, yeah. By the way, Joshua Waugh, who was announced today, is out 4 to 6 weeks with an upper body injury. So Laval just keeps getting depleted here, right? I think they'll send back maybe as soon as today or tomorrow, they'll send down Beck, I would think, to help out. Gouli last year was out with his appendix. Yes. Hage was MVP for sure. I agree. Bolduc needs to play north-south kind of play. That he does. Some good comments on here. Kings are a point away from the top of the division. Yeah. No, they're not. They're not going to be trading Kopitar. They won't be out of the playoff race enough to justify. It wouldn't be good PR. Vidac's really on the Alex Burrows. Yeah. Canada coach kept playing the wrong lines late in periods. That's why they lost. You don't need offense when holding a lead or tie late. Yeah. Our power play is great. No need for any change there. No. Grant, can you see Kapanen becoming a Patrice Bergeron too? I mentioned this on Twitter a couple months ago. And they nearly, well, I've mentioned it. Yeah, I've been mentioning it for months. He's kind of, he reminds me of Bergeron, that type of player. Will he ever be as good as Bergeron? Probably not, because Bergeron's going to be a Hall of Famer, but that style of player, I do believe. Are you related to him? Yeah. He's really, Vidac's really burrowing in, isn't he? Dach could be good with Suzuki, Caulfield, better than Bolduc at least. Yep, I agree. Enjoy your nativity feast, Eric. Yeah. Is there a chance of the Habs trading Laine? Oh, well, I hope so. Who starts in net tomorrow? Dobish? Probably Monty. Maybe Fowler. I'd be thinking Doby's the third choice, but I hope he does. After the trade deadline, you can have unlimited players in your roster as long as you don't pass the salary cap. Okay, but it's not the trade deadline right now. GB, moving Sloth to the second line was great. I agree with that. Hasek was but nobody's Hasek. You can't compare Dobish to Hasek. Aren't the Habs going to have a major cap issue in a few years? No, I don't think so. Not as long as they keep bringing in good young players. They're on ELCs. None of the players that they've signed long term none of them are. They're all bargain deals too. No, the cap keeps going up. ELC contracts keep coming in because the Habs keep drafting players that are good enough to play. So no, don't see them having a cap issues going forward. Why do teams not use weighted pucks to improve shot like Cornwall used to do? Oh, for all we know, they do. I don't know. I'm not there at the practices. Pretty sure that they still practice with them and players practice with them. I think they should concentrate on getting more defensive players. We got lots of offense. Gaining Carbonell won lots of games for us. Yeah, well, physical, size, defense. Yeah. I mean, they're a lot less costly than trying to find a first line winger, that's for sure. So there's that, right? There's that part of it, but also just the fact that the Canadiens don't lack in offense. They were leading the Eastern Conference in goal scoring, so players still practice with weighted pucks. Yeah. Is there any chance of sending Dovis down before Fowler? Well, you may have missed the start of the podcast, but I touched on that. And yeah, that seems to be, that's the impression I'm getting, is that he's more likely to get sent down than Fowler at this point. Weighted puck with a $300 stick that snaps. Imagine Matheson and Demidov practicing one-timers with weighted pucks. Oh my God. You'd have to have the stick rack right there on the ice for them to just keep grabbing them. Everyone would snap. Good point, Hank, man. I would trade Laine for Perry. Yeah, well, Kings are a point out of first place in their division. Why would they trade Perry for Laine? Takes two to tango. Unfortunately, you can do it. It works on NHL PlayStation, as Berge used to say, but Apple Tile. Good day, sir. Grant, in your opinion, who has been the most disappointing draft pick Montreal made in the last 10 years? Oh, I don't know. It'd have to be KK, I guess. Top 3 pick. Weighted pucks with a $300 stick. I like that. What do you think of the Habs in front of net clearing? Not great. That's why Gooley will be a welcome addition, and why I think eventually Reinbacher here will be replacing Carrier. Demidov stick is made out of Swiss cheese. Folks these days tend to automatically dismiss a secondary assist as an undeserved bonus point. Hudson had many last season, as his naysayers point out. What's your view on secondary assists? I think any assist is fine. It means you moved the puck. It means you made a nice pass. May not be the primary pass, but that doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot. You know, secondary assist could be setting up somebody for a one-timer and then the rebound gets put in, right? It can really be the primary pass. I mean, secondary assists come in all shapes and sizes, so no. Yeah. Supposedly, Demidov has the same company stick as Matheson. Yeah, apparently. Over, under on the amount of NHL games Hage gets this season. All depends. All depends. The Habs make the playoffs, how far they go. All depends if he signs a one-way deal and he doesn't get sent to Laval. All depends on how far Michigan goes. in the tournament. If they go to the Frozen Four, then there'll be fewer. He'll play fewer games. If they don't, if they lose in the regionals, then he'll be signed. He'll get more games. So get back to me March, and I'll have a better idea. Yeah. Oh well, I don't. I'm not too excited about. I don't need to know what Snake thinks of. Every time he opens his mouth about Kapanen, well, whatever. He's got opinion like anybody else, right? I'm not going to get excited because Snake thinks, oh, he can't, what else? He can't keep saying, oh no, of course he's got to start complimenting him. I mean, how could you not? We'll have to have the Snake on here. I don't know. I'll get in touch with him. Maybe I can have him on tomorrow after the World Juniors here. Get his thoughts. I would suspect that he's got. He now has Kapanen as a top 3 center, but we'll ask him about that if I do have him on. But I think he sort of was leaning towards Stenberg going into this tournament, and I have a feeling, like me, that he's probably leaning towards Stenberg being first overall. I would like to see a start in number of sticks broken in an NHL season and how each company ranks. Yeah, a stat. Sorry, yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. They have a stat for crossbars hit and stuff. I want a stat for broken sticks. I mean, you'd have to go through all that would take a long time unless somebody's really doing it. But yeah, broken stick stats would be interesting. But I'm sure that the Habs are right at the top. And I mean, yeah, how companies rank. Yeah. Depends on flex of sticks too and all. There's a few factors, I think. What's my take on Logan Sawyer? Long shot play on the Canadiens. There's just too many. He's a redundant player, I think. Skating, Zrosky and Hage are better versions, better skaters. And I don't mind Logan Sawyer, but do I put odds on him being a Montreal Canadiens someday? I put it at probably below 25%. Thoughts on Bryce Pickford? Oh, go watch a couple of my videos there. I put something up, Joey, a couple of weeks ago. I put up 2 or 3 videos, and I lots of thoughts on him there. It'd be I could spend 5 minutes rehashing it, but your best bet, Joey, if you don't mind, is just go look at the scouting videos that I made on Pickford, and I go into pretty good detail there. If you don't mind, if you're that interested. I like Pickford a lot. I think he's should have been on the World Junior team. I think he's the best defenseman in junior hockey right now, and he's got a future. He's got a future on Montreal's right side. What do you call a hockey player who's a jersey? An ice hole. Okay. Maybe you were supposed to say who's a jerk, or were you supposed to say jersey? Oh, okay. So I didn't really get it. Like a jersey, like a cow, Jersey cow. I was like, what are you? Okay. Well, thank you for that joke, Apple Tile. It's a funny one. Drum dude. I'm thinking Pickford would have looked good on that U20 team. Yeah. Yeah, he would have. Pickford and Protz would have been a nice pairing. Which of our left D-men do you feel are as good on the right side as the left side? None. How can you be as good on your offside as you are on your good side? Which do I feel are the best, like are better than others? Maybe would be a better way of putting that. Well, Cole is good on the right side. Gooley is okay on the right. I don't know. We haven't seen enough. Not enough large enough sample sizes to give a real definitive answer on that. I think Carrier should sit a game or two? Yeah, well, not until they get another right defenseman. They kind of need him. I don't really want 5 left defensemen in the lineup. You can get away with 4, but 5, not ideal. I wouldn't mind him sitting once Reinbacher's called up, sitting a game or two. Hage and Barzal, do you think their style of game is similar? Hage is bigger than Barzal, but there is some similarities to their puck game. Barzal's got really good edges. Hage is pretty good edges. Bigger body, can protect the puck a little better, but Barzal does it more with, I think he's a better puck handler overall. Hage tried a lot of toe drags and stuff and didn't always work. I think he overhandles at times. And one of the reasons why I think he might be better suited for the wing eventually, just as Barzal has become a winger now too. You overhandle along the boards, it's less catastrophic than if you overhandle in the middle of the ice. Would I bench Anderson or Gallagher? No, I wouldn't. I think they have spots in the lineup. Galley's last game was very good, actually. His last 2 games, he's had something like 10 shots. He scored in the last one. I think right now he's playing okay. Hockey is so fast in today's NHL. It's extremely difficult for a defenseman in the D zone. You said it, Sheldon. Wish they would give Reinbacher a look soon. Any chance, Grant? Hope so. I hope they do give him a look, but the issue with that is numbers. You can't just call him up, right? You gotta. None of the other defensemen are can be sent down, so it's tough right at this moment, just from a waivers standpoint. But I would like him to get a look. The fact that they didn't while Matheson was out, and while Matheson and Gooley was out, that was a prime opportunity, and instead they called up Engstrom. I guess you could send down Engstrom and bring up Reinbacher, but when injured players are coming back, then I don't know if there is that roster spot anymore. But I suppose, like with Engstrom and the extra, you have 8 defensemen with Gouli back. So Engstrom gets sent down. Then you're going to have, you just don't have the roster spot with 3 goalies, 7 defensemen, you know. And then when Dach comes back, how do you call up Reinbacher? Blais gets sent down. Beck gets sent down. I don't know. I'd have to look at the roster, but you run into complications here, right? With there just being too many roster spots. But we'll see. I mean, Goulet comes back and all of the defensemen are healthy. It's kind of hard to call up another one, even if you send Engstrom down. Reinbacher has looked good with the Rocket. Yes, he has. I have no idea if Anderson's out long term. What do you think is going to take for Demidov to win the Calder? Schaefer keeps scoring. Yeah. I don't know. Injury to Schaefer, maybe? I certainly don't hope that doesn't happen, but Schaefer is going to be tough to beat. Demi would have to, I don't know, start scoring at more than a point per game pace, and Schaefer would have to just stop producing altogether at this point. Yeah, injury. You know Jeff Galooly, drum dude? Give him a call. You notice that players from 50 years ago are slower than they are today? Yeah. Yeah, that would be a factual. And players from 75 are faster than they were in 25 too. Are players better today than in years past? Well, better equipped, better physical conditioning, better facilities, training facilities, better diets. There's a lot of reasons why players are faster today than they were 50 years ago. That would do it. Yeah, injuries. Habs are certainly at a tipping point as we approach trade deadline. It's a tricky spot to be in for Kent and Jeff. Yeah, but they're in a good spot because they don't have to. I don't think they have to make moves. So the right deal comes along, they will. But they're not going to just make a deal for the sake of making a deal because they don't have to. I think they can contend with the pieces that they have right now, honestly. Just need some health. Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of factors for why. And equipment too, right? I mean, the skates I wore when I was 6 years old compared to the skates I can wear today. The stick that I used compared to the stick I use today. I mean, geez. Pittsburgh manages to make the playoffs. Do I think Crosby is a leading candidate to win the MVP again? Probably not. They seem to go at the one of the top scorers now, unless he ends up catching them. But Warrior, yeah. Yeah, I won't be going and buying a $300 Warrior stick. No smoke on the bench these days. Hey, and players used to party too, right? I mean, it was a right for you to go out after the game and to the tavern and the next day after practice, close the friggin' taverns, go sweat it out on the rink the next day. Jeez, getting some off-topic kind of questions here. What do I think of all the smelling salts? I think it stinks. Ken Dryden sporting his equipment looks smaller than when Theodore played. Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, it's crazy the difference in the equipment, especially for goaltenders. And yeah, I mean, a lot more money in it, a lot more incentive to be good now too, right? As Sheldon was pointing out and stuff. I mean, the Espositos back in the 60s used to have summer jobs back in Sault Ste. Marie. Phil would come back home and work in the construction in the summer, make ends meet. So pay for all those beers that they drank after all the games. Fleury looked huge for a small guy, for example. Yeah, I guess you're not talking about Theo Fleury. Would need to trade Struble or wait for more injuries to see Radbacher, I think. Yeah. Who do you think they should trade Struble for? Burrows, Dach, or had a minute to pop in. Hope everyone had a great rest of the afternoon. Has a great rest. Thank you. Yeah, I think I got to get out for a ski. It's actually first day where it's not minus 15 in a while. My dog and I need to get out for a jaunt, so I'm going to I am going to wrap this up, folks. If you got another quick question or two, quickly ask me now. I'll maybe give another 5 minutes here if you do. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up. Tim Horton drove truck for Conn Smythe in the off season. Ooh, I wouldn't have wanted Tim Horton driving too much, driving any of my vehicles. The boys didn't get paid well enough back in the day. Yeah. No, the owners made most of the money. Is it me or today's sticks more susceptible to breaking? They are. Yeah. I don't know. You got a defenseman within 8 points. That gap's going to have to be about 20 for him to be considered. Bilal Shabir. Yeah, you must have missed the start of the show. I did indeed say that I think they'll make the playoffs. Not only that, I think they can maybe win the East. GB, okay, have a great one. Thank you. You too. I'll get a hold of Snake there this afternoon and see if he can come on tomorrow. And if so, maybe join me for I'll probably bring it out about 1 o'clock again in the afternoon. We usually tape in the morning, and then I can play it on a live show early afternoon tomorrow. But look for a show tomorrow at some point, and then probably a post game. So I'll do a double up tomorrow. As far as today goes, the press conference was the big thing. Nothing earth shattering from there. There isn't usually. Biggest news: Kapanen's a legitimate second line center. What was something here? Oh yeah, this is the one thing I wanted to bring up just quickly. I don't know if anyone else saw this, but Jack Adams Award, Bednar, Quenneville, McClellan, Hines, others receiving votes. Rick Tocchet, John Cooper, Glenn Gulitson. Like, why would the Dallas coach get votes over Marty? Like, seriously? Gulitson, he got a great friggin' he inherited a great team. And like, they're no higher in the West than Montreal is in the East, and he gets votes over Marty. Marty's played by far the youngest team in the league. He's had his starting goalie's had an 850 to 870 save percentage all year. He's had 3 guys, top 9 players out basically all year up front, and a top 4 defenseman out basically the entire year so far. And he still got the team within 2 points of first in the conference. So I don't know. Marty's not getting a lot of. Somebody was debating me online today and saying, "Well, I expected the Habs to. Well, I expected them to be good too going into the year, but if you'd have told me what I just said, Monty falling on his ass, having to go with 2 rookie goaltenders, Gooley, Dach, Newhook, all out, Laine out, Evans now out, just on and on, that they would be within 2 points of first overall in the Eastern Conference. I'd have thought that Marty would be quite deserving and being at least getting some votes here. But anyway, I just found that interesting that he's kind of not getting any love when it comes to Jack Adams Award this year. Can Kapanen be a number 1 center is now the question, I guess. I guess. What about Roy doing a lot with not too much? Yeah, even Patty Roy is in that discussion. Not surprise me, Pierre. Nothing wrong with having 2 number 1 Cs. Yes. Yeah. We still have 122 on here, right? Okay. All right, folks. I got caught up there. I'm going to have to roll. I appreciate you coming on. Look for something early afternoon tomorrow, and then a post game of some description. Thanks as always for your. Hey, this is a nice. We got a nice group in here, considering it's mid-afternoon, midweek. I appreciate the support, and maybe I'll put myself back on here. I appreciate the support, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, I hope. Thank you for tuning in. Go Habs, go. Have a grand day the rest of the day. Bye for now.